Greetings and welcome to Become One Living. My name is Jody Domerstadt.
And I'm
Boysitz.
Dan Boysitz. Jody Domerstadt Boysitz.
Hello, how are you, Dan?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Today we decided to discuss body work. Dan is a body worker and, in my opinion, a healer. In my experience, the way his hands listen to my body when it's in pain and needs adjustment it's amazing to me that you have that capacity to listen with your hands. Let's talk about what is body work.
The approach of body work is looking at the body structurally. It's an educated touch. The attack or the approach is about reorganizing the body to maximize potential for that human. And what I mean by that is reorganizing the body in relationship to itself within that system. So, for example, a good alignment of the knees over the ankles, a good alignment of the anterior superior iliac spine over the hips, and so on. So in a nutshell, 90-degree angles at all of the joints is a basic guide. And so range of motions, repetitive motions, and injuries will take a body out of that alignment. And so essentially what we're seeking to do is bring that alignment back or reintroduce that alignment back for ease at the joints.
Wow. Let's go back to the beginning and break some of that down for our friends. When you look at a body, and when I look at a body, I'm not as trained in body work as Dan is. I did yoga therapy hands-on training for 15 years with my teacher, who pretty much taught me how to put a dislocated knee back in place or shoulder.
It's awesome.
And I've had to do that for clients that were in class and things have happened. And though I'm not professionally trained in that in a massage therapist, I want to share that when we look at the body, we are looking for angles you spoke on and possible muscular strains. Where's the strain pattern in the body? And massage is different, my friends. I want to share this because I want to educate you when you go to purchase a service. Massage is a technique of strokes and kneading the body to induce relaxation. That is the definition of a massage. It is done to induce relaxation.
Specifically for that.
Yes. And now in massage school, which you went to, they don't teach you how to read a body. They don't really teach you how to... No. So that's important for you all to know. If you're in physical pain and you go for a massage and you say, go deep.
Yeah. Because
you think deep is going to be better, right? Go deep.
Right.
And then a couple of days later, you're still in pain. It's not the massage therapist's fault. They're not trained in that.
Right.
In looking at how is the system off and how can I create freedom where it's needed, not where they're in pain.
Joe, this is you just touched on a gazillion things and it's so loaded.
So what stands out to you that you would share about body work? Because you mentioned something that your goal is to create space for their highest potential.
Mm-hmm. To begin, I have to just say that we have to jump in somewhere, right? The lowest common denominator is that touch is therapy, right? Healthy, nurturing, educated touch is therapeutic, right? So,
which numerous neurological and neuroscientific studies have proven how lack of touch can
yes.
increase dementia, depression.
Yes, lack of, and development will be lacking.
Yes, they speak on how when children aren't held when they're young, they don't thrive.
Yeah, right. I want to share as much information as I can with the audience, but I want the audience to know that I am speaking as a practitioner. Right today, I'm not speaking as an educator. I'm not speaking as an authority. I'm speaking as a practitioner who has devoted lots and lots, my life to this practice, right? So to distinguish a bodywork session from a massage session, massage is just what Joe said. It's the idea is more luxury, that it's not necessarily supportive of growth and development or an educated touch. It's more about relaxing the system, for lack of a better way to put it. Now, bodywork is more informed. It's a more educated touch. It's got goals, like I shared, the goal to reorganize the body. But before we get to there, we have to start to develop a relationship with any given client, right? So there are. You can start at day one with a newborn baby, right? So some humans have congenital or from birth developmental concerns or issues from the jaw and the mandible and the maximal all the way through the body to the feet, in and out, right? So all these things are considered when you're working with somebody.
So when working with someone, you have to take into consideration, and we'll talk about this in another episode, functional yoga. That's right. Why we've synthesized
everything's
this.
Like woven in together.
Because you don't know if the bone has altered or was altered from birth, or if misalignment over time has created that, and then we don't know if it's muscular.
Right. So on that note, part of body work and developing a relationship with a body work practitioner is just that, is exploration and discovery, right? So some people are born with extra bones in their body for some reason. Some people are born with, say, they call them quadriceps, but sometimes they've opened up bodies and found 5 muscles that do that work. Some people have many humans have psoas major, but not all have a psoas minor development of a muscle.
And some don't even have a piriformis.
Right. So all of these things get synthesized when I walk into the room to work with somebody. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg as to what is synthesized in my mind when I approach somebody.
And that is why also body work in the medicinal definition says the person that does body work has multiple modalities that they have studied over multiple years.
Right.
And practiced it.
I would almost say the summary of my training and my interests almost fall all under the category of sensitivity training. Fielding a person coming in the room like it's an ostrich egg and holding that person with that sensitivity of touch. And I don't mean just by the physical contact touch. I mean by the very first text message I get for someone who's going to come in, right? So all of the work gets synthesized, but there's so many things in my head that I hope to share. But as a practitioner, all of these things are going on in my mind to bring ease and maximize the potential of any human that comes into my room to be worked with.
And that sounds very trauma informed. And not that I would say Dan is a trauma informed practitioner. I would say this was innate in Dan. Dan innately, in my opinion, well, I'm going to leave out the word opinion because my experience of Dan, because I've had multiple injuries. I've had 2 breast surgeries, 5 bone amputations, brain surgery, and I have high grade spondylolisthesis.
Right.
And Dan's help of his body work, when I'm on the table, it starts the minute I say, hey, I'm in pain.
Yeah.
The way he lays me down, the discussion, you have this sensitivity that when people come out of Dan's room, men are crying. 70-year-old men come out crying.
Yeah.
Pain-free.
Yeah.
Other women have said to me, I've never felt so safe being touched by a man. And what I'm hearing from you, which I love, is the minute someone reaches out, you're already cultivating a relationship with them. And in neuroscience, there's something called the SCARF model. SCARF, SCARF. And the R is relatability. And studies have shown neurologically, when you relate to someone, and S is for status, and you honor their status, they will feel safer with you quicker.
Yeah.
And you do that innately, which is beautiful to me.
There's a lot of powerful tools required to do this work. And at the top of the list is the ability to listen. And it's not just listen about to what people say. When I make a contact with somebody with my hands, it's listening through my hands. Text messages, work in the room. It's the listening is like the paramount. It's the top of the heap. It's really important for somebody to be heard in order for any expectation, which is a whole nother topic, any expectation to be met. So I try to gather as much information as I can from somebody that's coming in for the first time, because they're also coming in with an expectation. So if I don't educate by way of listening to what they're sharing and what their expectation is, then it's makes it really difficult. So that, trust, safety, relatability are all requisite for a person to actually receive a session, get off the table, and then have something. I want to use the word tangible, but it's not necessarily tangible, but feeling wise that they have shifted or transformed a little bit. It takes, I think it's, it's not something that you necessarily can learn in a classroom.
The gift you have, no, that's not learned. When I first met Dan, something that drew me towards Dan was his ability to allow me to feel as if no one else existed in the world. When I speak to this man and I see him speak to other people, he leans in and he listens. He gets so quiet and he asks questions. That never happened in my family. My family was talking over one another, and I was the baby, and everybody ignored me. Shut up, you don't know, pushed aside. And here I meet this man almost 15 years ago. He actually listened to what I said. And that, when he did that, I wanted to do that.
And I feel that's one of the fibers that you and I intertwined on immediately, is because it's Shravana, right? I listen so intently that oftentimes I'll be listening so intently that I'll forget the things that are going through my mind that I want to bring up in relationship to what somebody's sharing, because I don't need to tell anybody what I know. I'm fielding the human, to make a breakthrough, or at least allow them simply to be heard.
To be heard, witnessed, and seen. You're speaking yoga. That's why what you do works so well with what we offer, what I offer. And when I share with people how body work is intricate, it is key in growth. In a lot of books that I read about writing, I love writing. My friends, I'm not the best writer. Dan helps edit and clean up my writing. I love writing, and a lot of writers will go get rolfing or craniosacral when they have writer's block or when they're stuck. They go get skillful body work to help create down regulation, relaxation, and space to come back home, to connect to self. And that is the goal of yoga. The goal of yoga is, may I learn about my body by using it as a tool and get in my body, communicate with my internal signals, and then learn how to co-create my life through my intuitive knowing and to meet my full potential.
I mean, so loaded in a great way, so rich in a great way.
So this is part one. We would say that this is definitely have to be a part one of our...
Yeah, it's...
Can I go back
Yep.
to Shravana
Sure.
for a second to share with my friends? Shravana is an ancient learning technique from the Upanishads. It's actually from a yogic text. And Shravana means to listen to what is said with all of your senses. And not to, this is important, listen, not to try to relate it to what you think you know. Because once I share something with you and you go, oh yeah, well, Ram Dass said that, or Shmakalakalaka said that, you now think you know what I'm saying, and you actually miss the opportunity to receive and feel and open up to a new possibility. So Shravana, what Dan is saying is, I know nothing, and I'm here because I trust you, and I'm willing to hear something different without relating it to what I think I know.
The thinking mind most often is the greatest obstacle. And if you went to a Western medicine person and said, craniosacral we're going to do, or bodywork helps, it's way too organic and natural to measure. It was like if I put 5 people in a line and said, okay, let's figure out who's the most spiritual here of 5 people that claim to be spiritual. Well, how would you measure that? You might, if you were to endeavor to answer that question, you may say, well, it's going to take a lifetime. It's going to take each of these people's lifetimes for us to figure out who may be actually spiritual and who may be more spiritual than another. And it goes in waves and it comes and goes, and all of these things are so deep and rich that you can't really necessarily measure it, but we can start somewhere, right? So we can start with the idea of pain. Mm-hmm. And for me, pain is our body's most specific way to tell us that something is not in the right place. And each of these things I say are so delicate because what I'm saying is that very specifically, I'm not saying I'm saying your head on your shoulders correctly. I'm saying your toes in alignment correctly. And I'm saying all that, but I'm saying that all the way down to the cellular level. In other words, the right ear has cells in it, and each of those cells knows where the left pinky toe should be in space and time at any given point. But if they're not in alignment within this system, there's going to be pain somewhere. Pain enters our body 2 ways. Mm-hmm. Repetitive motions or patterns or repetitive positions, because a lot of people sit today, or impacts to the body. That's it. Aside from that, the asterisk would be is that maybe somebody was born with a challenge, and that becomes a different part of the conversation. So another thing to keep in mind when we have these conversations is we have to start at a starting point of talking in ideals. Yeah. This is an ideal, but not everybody comes into to life in an ideal space. And that there itself could be that person's spiritual journey if they choose to go that way, right? So it's like, which way do you want to capture information and share? Because it's so the breadth of it is so wide and deep.
Well, let me go back to something you said, because this is also functional yoga. This is why I synthesized the functional approach with traditional yoga, because there is an ideal. There is an ideal. And yet there's no universal alignment principles. That's not what we're saying. I hope you all hear that. Listen again, especially if you teach yoga. There is no one cue that works for everybody. There's no such thing. There is no universal alignment principles. And there is an optimal way the human body was designed to function without anything happening to it. That's what we're talking about. That's where we're starting. And we know that's unrealistic because there's birth trauma. There's traumas we've learned that happen in utero. And now you come out, and I swallowed a quarter when I was 5 years old, and I died. It closed off my windpipe. They brought me back. They had to
held
pull
you
the
upside
quarter
down, patted you on the back.
My dad tried to. I tried to yank it out of me. We're not saying there's a perfect way that the body should be. And when you work on people, the goal is to reorganize and make space according to the human's body in that moment and what has happened to them. Because with my jaw, I broke my jaw in 7 places they don't know. And a couple years ago, severe pain came in. Now, Dan can't fix that jaw. He can't fix the bones. It's 25 years later. But what Dan can do is reorganize the muscles, release tissue around it so that there's freedom and space. And now I'm out of pain.
Once the body has been compromised in some way, whether it's a broken bone or a sprained ankle, so now I'm going deep into what I've come to believe, right, is that your body doesn't forget that, one, but also when you as a human get stressed out in any way, whatever you want to pick, whether it's a relationship or physical, in any way, pain finds the weaker parts, the compromised parts of the body, and most readily, most easily, right? So just to know where you're injured and where you hold strain is a great piece to work with for yourself. So self-body work, right? So if you know those spots on your body that are challenged, you go there. You listen to the pain. You go to the pain and you work with that pain. You touch it, you compress it, you hold it, maybe rub it a little bit. And that's the doorway into bringing calm to your nervous system.
Yeah.
And so what most people do, I just want to share while we're on that topic, is that what most people tend to do is avoid or adapt their whole bodies around that one thorn on the rose bush. They'll adapt their whole life to accommodate that pain so they don't feel that pain. When if they knew to work with that pain, and if they work with it enough, they will find that that pain actually may bring them ecstasy.
Oh, wow. When you say our whole body organizes around the pain, are you saying our body, like little soldiers, gets around the pain and says, hey guys, let's do this and this and this because we got to make up for it because there's a weak place here. And so now more strain patterns happen, pullings, like a limping or...
Yeah. So when me and Jody go running, I'll watch Jody from she'll be in front of me, and Jody has a lower back concern, right? And the way that Jody gingerly sometimes runs and the way she lifts her back with her upper body, she essentially has changed her run to accommodate and adapt so that compromised space
Yeah, I've adapted to my back.
Yes. And oh my gosh, you said something I wanted to share.
And then I just want to touch on what you said. If you remember, please stop me. Dan also said, now you adapt and you don't even know you're in pain.
Right.
And then the pain comes out somewhere else and you're like, oh my God, I have a migraine.
Yes.
And the migraine isn't the migraine. It's from you limping.
An old school example of that is old school hysterectomies. From my understanding, the pelvic floor would be sliced right through.
Like my mom.
Right through, yes. And so there's no spring at the base of the spine. And so basically what happens is the spine over the years shrinks down. And then you look like then you look like the shoulders are swallowing the head because there's no support. So what you have to keep in mind, Buckminster Fuller is a name that I always go to because he was an architect, a visionary, a Mensa International member, and which is a really high IQ club that you just don't get into. But his one of his discoveries was called tensegrity, and Dr. Levin, I believe is his name, added on to that concept to make biological tensional integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the idea that any system in itself is the whole system feels whatever happens to it.
Wow.
Right? So, let's say somebody has an ankle thing and they're always spraining their ankles. That affects the whole system.
Oh my God. That's why this goes so great with yoga. When we're moving our own body and using tools, it's an instrument to understand where these strains are, where this openness is, where this freedom is, and use the asana against our body the way it is now. That's the functional approach, right? Use the asana to help Jody's back. So my back, I had to go to the doctor and get an MRI, and they showed me my spine, and the nurse left in concern and went and got the doctor right away. And I said to the doctor, I don't want to know. I said, I already know. I don't want to know. And he said, he pulled out metal rods and screws and 2 vertebrae and said, this is what we need to do to fix your back. Mm-hmm. And I said, Doc, I'm okay. He's like, no, you're not. I said, no, I'm not in pain. Well, me and Dan found out a couple years ago that I have spondylolisthesis, grade 4, which means get surgery today. And our friend, who's an amazing chiropractor, Dr. Noah, he said, this thing hasn't moved in 20 years. The scar tissue around the bone, holding it there, allowed me not to get surgery. Well, I chose not to. And then my whole body, as you said, adapted around that. So now I use my yoga poses. This is where I'm going, my friends, so stay with me. I don't not do yoga because I was told to stop doing yoga because of my spinal fracture. It's a fracture. And I said, no. I now use the poses to help me function and do the things that feel good. That's the functional approach. If I stop moving, what is going to happen to my back? So I stretch my hamstrings, I stretch my quads. But I don't do is full wheel. My friends, listen, not all poses are supportive for you. Right. Not all poses help. Wheel is detrimental to my body. Don't need to do it.
Yeah.
And so the body work and what you're sharing and saying is, okay, how this Jody, who has all these surgeries and scar tissue, is in front of the room with me, coming into my office. How can I meet her where she is, be with her, and start to make space in these areas so she has more energy? Because how much energy is used, Dan?
Yeah, my
patterns?
My understanding is that 25% of the average person's energy, so when you eat and you make energy in your body, 25% of that energy is burned on the adaptations your body is maintaining to keep you going, right? So
that's exhausting. 25. So I wake up at 75% already.
Right.
So all that energy is going to kind of hold it together.
Yeah.
Wow. Physically. And then you got the emotional and everything else.
Right. One of the considerations with, I think, Dr. Levin's biological tensional integrity, which is a cool thing to research and read about, is that there are a lot of forces at work in our body and on our body. So when we talk about bodies, the no-brainer one. The no-brainer force is gravity. Gravity acts on everything, right, and pulls towards the center of the earth. And so we want to be in line, at ease in gravity. But when you just take one system as a whole, we have to remember that there are actually a handful of other forces at work in the body, or little nuclear forces that happen within our own system. Forget about what else is going on in our solar system. Just in your own system, there are nuclear forces that push outward. There's other forces at work in your body that are actually pushing outward. Like if you took a balloon and blew it up with air, that air is pushing the balloon outward. Those forces are at work in each and every one of our bodies, right? So we just think of gravity and, okay, let me just take an ibuprofen and kill the pain and get on with life. But if you would take the time, or anyone would take the time to investigate, explore, and use that exploration to discover how their body is maintaining or holding pain, and the system and the pattern that starts to grow from any injury or repetitive motion, you'll find that you can bring yourself ease by positioning your body in different yoga poses, or using, I lie on rocks. I work out my feet by standing on rocks and different things. Yeah.
Yeah. On very expensive crystals. I walked in the other day and I said, what are you doing? And he's like, what? I'm like, do you know how much that thing costs? He's like, yeah, but it's great for my foot. He's standing on my heart chakra crystal that was probably $300. And he's like, oh, it's good for my feet. Can I bring it with me? It's near the side of our bed. That's what he uses. Any tools. And I want to share with you that once I went to this doctor a couple weeks ago, Dan said, we're going to work on your belly every day. We're going to work. And what Dan has been doing every night is taking his hands and going above my pubic bone and below the belly button area and going in front of the body to lift up the vertebrae and kind of put it back.
Get it back.
And what he's speaking on is this. You need to be committed to this, just like yoga. We're doing it every day for 3 to 5 minutes. It's repetition over time neurologically that creates change. It's not an hour once a year.
Right.
Please listen.
Right. Just like anything that you're looking to get yield out of, you have to devote some time, energy, some resources to that. And that's and it goes both ways, right? So I've had instances where somebody's lied on the table and I've worked on them and they get up and they're like, I've never been that relaxed in my entire life. And I never see them again. Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there are, people who devote time and energy to figuring it out, because it is a process. Your body's so sophisticated, complicated, advanced. It's a technology. The human body is an amazing machine,
That takes at least 6 months, right?
Yeah. Some injuries, if you have like bilateral sensation down your legs, for example, it's like 3 to 6 months of work. It's like.
Please hear that again, my friends. I suggest Dan do packages with people so that they could experience the results, but people come for one time and they don't get the potential because maybe they just relaxed and they say, well, I'm not here for relaxation. I'm here to be pain-free. And I'm going to tell you this. Healing occurs in down regulation.
Right.
If you can't relax, you can't heal.
So Joe, ordinarily, on average, the first goal is to bring people deeper breath, a human body deeper breath, because that calms the nervous system. That that alone can bring relief or reduce the pain from somebody walking in the office and saying, where's your pain level at? It's at 8. And just getting a deeper breath can bring their pain down significantly. They can leave and say, wow, I don't really feel in pain. So that note, yes. And it's a vicious cycle. When we're stressed or anxious or in pain, it's a vicious cycle if we don't learn the tools to proactively reverse those, right? So I'm in pain. I literally, so this is again, like, I wish there was a book on this, but this is me synthesizing my experience. People come in, they define themselves as being anxious, and I'm looking at a body that's in pain, right? So when the body is not in good organization, it equals essentially pain. The person's in pain. Now, the patient, the client doesn't realize that that's deeply connected. And if we can get the body organized better and in a more ideal in relationship with their system, in a better place, they'll get deeper breath, feel more at ease, feel more confident. The pain will diminish, and not only that, they'll start to have tools to better work on themselves when they get home, right? So it's a vicious cycle, and just to reiterate that, is like, I literally see people that will define themselves as anxious, but really what they're dealing with is their body is in pain. So if we diminish that pain, they wouldn't define themselves as anxious. They would actually start to diminish that connection and start to feel like they wouldn't even remember that as who they are. But to me, it's unfortunate that people define themselves as certain things when they could do something about it.
Well, remember pre-tumor, if you're just listening and new to us, I had a brain tumor that sat in the area which could trigger anger and rage, and also experienced trauma, numerous trauma. So I had a little angry
an executive
part.
Functioning.
Yeah. I had a little angry part. And also I had no idea I was in pain. And when I started to learn source point therapy and body work and energy work and visceral, that means organs, moving organs, and I got a lot of work done, I actually became calmer and less reactive.
Right.
And if you would have told me that was going to happen, I would never believe you. I kept going to therapy. What's wrong with me? Why am I angry? And our friend and one of our colleagues looked at me and said, because your body is stuck in this shape, you're in pain. But I was numb. I was using numbing at that time, different food and different things, had no idea, overworking. And when all of a sudden you and her created this space in my spine and my jaw, I met Jody. I
Right.
had this potential of peace. I never, ever in my lifetime would have imagined that Jody Dommerstad could be peaceful when I was the human that would do anything to get away from myself. And all the yoga in the world would never have done that, because yoga is not a blunt object. Do you understand that,
feather.
my friends listening? Well, honey?
It's a feather.
Yeah. The poses don't go in. So sometimes you need help from another to get their hands in there and to be with you. The other day, I worked on one of our clients, because the clients go to Dan and me. And I worked on her, and I held the back of her knee, pressing on some area and holding gentle for 40 minutes. And she got up, her pelvis looked different, no knee pain, and her eyes were bright. It was the happiest I've seen her, because she's had multiple health concerns in her mid-60s. No knee pain. 40 minutes I sat there holding her knee, and she gets up. What did you just do? What just happened? And what she doesn't realize is all the work she did with Dan allowed that to happen, allowed her to relax so much that the knee changed, the tissue released in that moment. And I don't think her knee will ever pop out again.
Yeah, but it takes time. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
If you're in pain, please use your yoga, use your tools, and find someone that is skilled and educated. Ask questions. Like example, craniosacral therapy is not a weekend training. It's not a weekend training. Dan's giggling because he's in year 5.
I don't even remember anymore. Yeah, at least.
Year 5. And when he says to his teacher, Hugh, when do I take the test? He's like, just be here,
just keep coming.
He said, just keep coming in and be with me. Do this. Get educated. If someone is a massage therapist, that is not considered body work. It's not good or bad. That's not what we're saying. But if you need more than that, you have to ask questions. Well, what else do you use instead of technique to help me relax? That's all.
Yeah.
So just know that body work and massage are different. And how does this all relate to yoga? The practitioner is doing yoga when they're working on you. You're in a yogic state. Dan is present. He is with you. His senses have to be trained inward. They're not, I don't hear from my husband for 8 hours a day. And we work in the same office because he's not near his phone. He's not talking to anyone else but his clients. He is focused. So how is this yogic? It is yogic because you're using the body as an instrument to help someone realize their potential. You're helping them breathe and focus and learn about the system that they live in. And Dan also gives homework to people because one and done isn't going to work. Yoga is a practice. Body work is a practice that needs to be done repeatedly over time to entrain the system to work a different way.
Yeah.
Dan, what would you, how did body work change you as we wrap it up? Like, what would be something that you could offer people that you're called to say about it? What you witnessed, what you feel about it? What's one thing as we wrap up this episode?
I think for anyone's development and growth personally, that having educated hands touch a body all at once, simultaneously, is exploration and discovery all at once. It helps individuals get to know themselves better.
Yoga, relationship with others and self. Thank you all for listening. This is definitely part 1 because we love bodywork, craniosacral. We didn't even touch on that yet.
Yeah, the difference between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us at Become One Living. You can follow us on Instagram at Become One Living. And if you have any questions that you would like us to share our experience or insight on, our email is becomeoneliving@gmail.com. Okay, thank you all. Have a great day.